Hi, my name is Nevaeh, and I'm going to share my thoughts on why the Second Amendment in the Constitution should be amended. In the United States, there have been numerous incidents of mass shootings in the past, which have caused immense loss of life and extensive damage to the public. Now, from CNN Wire in the article United States Top 400 Mass Shootings in 2023, start quote, the United States has surpassed 400 mass shootings in 2023, setting the stage for a record-breaking year in gun violence without any significant federal firearm legislation on the horizon, end quote. To prevent such incidents from happening in the future, it is imperative that we implement stronger gun control laws. These laws will help to regulate the access to firearms, making it more difficult for individuals who have the intention to cause harm to obtain them. The implementation of stricter background checks, limiting the sale of certain firearms, and enforcing waiting periods for purchasing firearms are all important measures that can be taken to reduce the occurrence of mass shootings and ensure the safety of the public. I know there's a ton of controversy in the United States among the people wanting to create stricter gun laws and not wanting to due to the Second Amendment. While the Second Amendment states, start quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, end quote. The right to bear arms in America is a right that shall not be infringed, meaning that all U.S. citizens have the right to keep and bear arms. But how many people behind these weapons shouldn't have the opportunity to carry weapons? Because as of now, statistic-wise, the U.S. gun-related deaths are still on a rise, even from 2021 just to 2020 to just 2021. Now, according to NPR, on the article of gun deaths hit their highest level ever in 2021, with one person dead every 11 minutes. Start quote, per the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the firearm homicide rate was 8.3% higher in 2021 than it was in 2020. Firearm suicide rates among people 10 years old or older also increased by 8.3% from 2020 to 2021. And the percentage of homicides attributed to firearm injuries rose from 79% in 2020 to 81%. The highest percentage in more than 50 years, end quote. It's crazy to say and hear how much of an increase and how high the numbers were to start from gun-related deaths within a year. Not only that, but also just seeing the title of the article with the words, with one person dead every 11 minutes. That's heartbreaking, and that's a person that a family is losing and another person whose loved ones are planning a funeral for. But I think it's also important to know a right that U.S. citizens hold is the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment states, start quote, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws, end quote. Let me reread a small part again that states, start quote, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, end quote. How many people's lives and liberty have to be deprived from the heavy amount of gun-related deaths in the United States? How many people's lives and liberties are going to have to continue to be deprived in the United States before there is change? Before United States citizens are able to proudly state that their life and liberty in the country is secured. I want to also state that the Constitution says, start quote, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, end quote. Once again, we hear the same words that align with the right of life and liberty, but let's add on that it also says, and the pursuit of happiness. I don't believe many people's loved ones who have died from guns were able to say they had the pursuit of happiness in the moment of fear before their death, in the moment of being in a classroom setting, a mall, a church, a parking lot, watching fireworks with their families, or so many other activities. I don't believe those people felt their right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness before a bullet entered them and ended their lives. Because where is the life, liberty, and freedom and security? Because statistics-wise, all I see is that mass shootings are at a rapid increase. I understand it's not the gun's fault, but the person behind the gun, and perhaps they're just mentally ill, so that's why so many mass shootings occur. You're right, it's not entirely the gun's fault, but who allowed the person to obtain the gun in the first place? I just want to state that we are not the only place in the world with mental illnesses. The United States as a country is not the only country in the world that suffer from mental illnesses. But only in America are we so okay and complacent that we can walk outside and be okay, never seeing the stars, the moon, sunlight, friends, family, pets again, because we would rather keep and obtain the gun laws we have today instead of fixing them to prevent such horrible things happening to us. Only in America are we so okay with the access to guns that will cause mass destruction to so many people. And I'm not talking about the small ones, no. I'm talking about one of the most used weapons that we hear about that tends to be connected to mass shootings. Because only in America do we dream and fetishize our guns so proudly that it's okay for violence and mass shootings to occur. Because who cares about the gun-related deaths, right? I mean, come on, after every mass shooting incident, we're sending tons of thoughts and prayers to the family and victims, so that puts a band-aid on top of everything and makes everything okay. Matter of fact, thoughts and prayers to all the victims from Sandy Hook Elementary School. Thoughts and prayers to all the victims from Robb Elementary School. Thoughts and prayers to the victims in Lewiston, Maine. I can go on about how many thoughts and prayers I would like to send out right now, but in the end, it's not bringing a single one of those victims back, is it? I want to follow along with a personal experience to really express how desensitized the United States is from all these gun-related deaths. Because I will never forget my sophomore year of high school. There was this boy who really, really liked me. And all I gotta say is at the end, I did not like him back. But why did I not like him back? I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable, so I ended contact with him. I didn't even know who this person was to begin with. They made a fake account. Now, this guy went on top of his game and contacted every single one of my friends saying he was going to show up to my house, he was going to go to school the next day, and went into graphic detail about me being on the top of his hit list as well as my friends right after me, and that he wanted to end our lives due to me blocking him and not wanting to have a relationship with him. I will never forget the night I went to the police station with my mom, and I sat there for over an hour to make a report and have officers help me. Sitting there being in fear, and I hear the officers joke about my situation with each other and relate to the Valentine massacre, because due to the time of the incident being around January, February. Furthermore, I will never forget the words that came out of my school officer's mouth the next day when I had a meeting with him and my mom, and he said the words, "Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys." Me and my friends had the chance of being another statistic and another thought and prayer, but hey, boys will be boys, and I know at least people around the world would be sending us thoughts and prayers. Other countries, after they created stricter gun laws, let's take a moment to try and predict if their gun-related deaths dropped at all after they created stricter gun laws. Let's start seeing what countries took action to protect their people. And the result from starting off with, now CNN stated in this article, starting with Australia, start quote, "Less than 2 weeks after Australia's worst mass shooting, the federal government implanted a new program, banning rapid fire rifles and shotguns and unifying gun owners' licensing and registration across the country. In the next 10 years, gun-related deaths in Australia fell by more than 50%. A 2010 study found the government's 1997 buyback program, part of the overall reform, led to a drop in firearm suicide rates that averaged 74% over the 5 years that followed, end quote. I just want to state again, less than 2 weeks after Australia's worst mass shooting, their federal government decided to actually take action, and as a result, they saw drops in their gun-related deaths. But here in America, it's okay for us to keep going in these mass shootings, and not take a single thing for action with the government. And I want to say that there's more countries such as South Africa, and let me start off with the quote of gun-related deaths dropped by almost half over a 10-year period after new gun legislation, the Firearms Control Act, went into force in July 2004. The new laws made it much more difficult to obtain a firearm, end quote. But it doesn't stop there, because New Zealand start quote gun laws were swiftly amended after the 2010 Christchurch mosque shootings, just 24 hours after the attack in which 51 people were killed. Then their prime minister announced that the country's gun laws would change. New Zealand's voted almost unanimously to reform the country's gun laws less than a month later, banning all military-style semi-automatic weapons, end quote. Less than a month later, they actually took action for their country to make them feel safe. Now, there's another one. Britain start quote tighten its gun laws and ban most private handgun ownership after a mass shooting in 1996, a move that saw gun deaths drop by almost a quarter over a decade, end quote. It's great to see and know that actions speak far louder than words. All these countries took actions and they saw results that let their country live life, liberty, and happiness. And they don't even have the same constitution as the U.S., yet they're living America's constitution better than any of us can here. I want to end with a quote from President Biden as he stated, start quote, whether we're Democrats or Republicans, we all want families to be safe. We all want to drop them off at the house of worship, a mall, a movie, the school door without worrying that it's the last time we're ever going to see them. We all want our kids to have the freedom to learn to read and write instead of learning how to duck and cover in a classroom, end quote. Now let all this sink in and let me know if you would like to continue to send only our thoughts and prayers to each person that is dead to the poor gun laws, or if it's finally time for the United States government to actually take action and let their citizens live the Constitution to the fullest.